Hi, it's me. I'm Natasha. So I missed breastfeeding week, so I thought I would do a video because I was gonna do a Instagram post, but then I thought this is more fun and I don't really get much time to write. I haven't really thought about what I was gonna say in the video. Anyway, so River's like a year and 3 months old. It's like 15 months old now, is that? Yeah. And we're still breastfeeding. It's been pretty full on and quite like difficult a lot of the times. No? I think I've complained a lot actually about it, even though I like, on the one hand I really love doing it because I know how good it is for him, and then on the other hand it does, like, it comes in your way a lot because it's literally like another person attached to your body, just taking away your energy, like sucking it out quite literally. But yeah, so since it was breastfeeding week, I think, like, I know I should probably say some positive things, but I'm just gonna be like quite honest. From the first, when I started, obviously I had a C-section, so in the hospital it was quite difficult for me to feed him because I was, you know, on a lot of like medication for the huge operation and everything. And yeah, the hospital was quite weird about like having him being, you know, like having him in the room a lot, and they kept him in like a nursery by himself, which was really sad, and I don't think I want to do that again for my next child whenever that happens. So the first 2 days, like, I didn't really get to feed him much, and it was really sad, and I was like getting rock hard and all that. But anyway, we moved past that, and then as all moms know, the first 3 months are insane, and it's just like constant. It's like constantly feeding. You can't like get up, you can't pee, you can't do anything. It's just like constant. But now obviously it's eased out a lot. We're almost at the point where he is, you know, I don't know how much he wants it for the milk really. I think now he just wants it for the closeness and the comfort, which is cute as well. So our journey has been quite like long and quite difficult at sometimes, but quite nice as well. We're vegan, and there's no, like, at least in India, there's no vegan formula. So in the hospital, without even asking us our preference or anything, they started feeding him formula. And then when I was a bit more in my senses and off so much medication, I was like quite upset about it. And so we would insist, I would call the nurse every like hour and be like, is he awake? Bring him in, let me feed him. And I was in the hospital for 3 days, and for 3 days they kind of like treated it as if it was their child and that I was just like a surrogate or something. You know, it was quite difficult.
Yeah.
When we came home, but like at that point we were just so over the moon about having him that we didn't like, obviously we realized that over, you know, this is against our principles, but like we were just quite so ecstatic that we were okay to just let them get on with it.
Yeah.
I think that was it, because I don't remember complaining too much in the hospital. Like you and I, on the last night there, Jack and I were talking about it and we were not very happy, but like I don't remember complaining about it in the hospital too much. But like in retrospect, it like really pisses me off actually, and because otherwise River's just, you know,
I felt like they caused a lot of problems because you had
They did.
you had engorgement.
Yeah,
He had
and the thing
very
is, when
bad-
the
a
first
bad
night
stomach.
after he was born, like the thing that people don't, I think, seem to understand, or like even the doctors take really lightly, is like the first day of breastfeeding is so important, and like the colostrum is so important, and they just think that, oh, this is not enough. But like you have to understand, when a baby is born, it's like that small, at least River was, and the stomach is like the size of their own fist, which is like maybe that much. So whatever my body or your body or whoever has had a baby is producing is the right amount for your baby. And like if it's crying, all you have to do is like cuddle it and feed it some more and just like let him keep feeding. I feel like from the first moment that like your baby is born, everyone's like, okay, now you have to get them on a schedule, and you know what I mean? It's like, oh, feed it this time and then put to sleep and then feed it that time, and it's like, I don't think it really works that way, because first of all, like all babies are different, and like it's just you have to think about where it's come from. You know, it's like the first day of life or like the first week of life, whatever. It's hard. They've been in like a cuddly place where they've never had to like ask for food before. It was just a thing. It just like filtered through them, kind of like fish. And then, you know, now suddenly they're in a place where they've like seen you for the first time and they don't really know what's happening. They're not really seeing you anyway because their eyes are closed. But you just have to think about it in a more emotional way than hospitals allow you to, and that's why I feel also like the hospital experience wasn't best for me, even though I really liked my doctor. She was a very kind and very like sweet, like grandmother kind of person, and I really liked her. She did a great job and my scar is really minimal and all of that stuff. But like, yeah, I think for him, because of the first 3 days in the hospital, it's also so important to like set your milk up for the coming weeks, the first few days. That's where like the standard is set. And like apparently like the only thing, because I did so much research because I was having so much trouble with him in the first few months, like the only thing that makes a difference for how much milk you produce is how much you feed. And I think that they kind of like messed me up for that in the hospital, because, you know, as I said, I didn't really get to feed him as much as I wanted. I didn't even really get to hold him as much as I wanted to, which was really sad.
Very impersonal.
Yeah, and I guess you would, in a sense, you would think, well, you're in a hospital, what do you expect? But then like, I know some people that have had babies in a hospital and then they have the baby in the room with them in a little basket thingy next to the bed. And so like anytime the baby cries, you can pick it up, or, you know, if he's hungry, you can feed him. And I think that's how it should be. And, you know, being from such a like earthy country, like we are from India, it's like I feel like it is in our nature to do things more naturally instead of more like clinical, which is it's a modern thing, isn't it, to do stuff like that and like be like all like, oh, this is how stuff should be done, as opposed to just do things according to how you feel. And I think that like, even though I am quite a modern person, I have retained a lot of that from my culture, or just like, I don't know, I just think it's a human thing as well. Even animals do it, don't they? It's just a human thing. It's like first few weeks of the baby's life. It's like, and for us, I think it's months, because animals grow much faster. For us, it's just like months where the baby just wants to be attached to you. It's scary every time, like if you think about like being a new being that has just like come into this world, just like exploded out of a bag of water, and like suddenly just like, you know, in this place where it has to like breathe from the outside, and like the air is new, there are lights everywhere, and like you're not attached to this pipe that's just like feeding you, and you know what I mean? It's just like, if you think about that, you just know what you're supposed to do. But so I guess because of that, I had a lot of trouble. And then someone recommended this lactation consultant, and she came in and she actually said that his latch is fine, you just have to feed him more. You know, it's difficult to like explain to someone how hard it is to like, even when you know all the stuff that you read and like, oh, it's so important and it's so good and it's so healthy, but it's still so difficult, because up until the point that you have your baby, even when you're like super pregnant, everybody's just like really taking care of you and everything's about you. Up until that point, everything's about you, and all of a sudden you mean the least all of a sudden, because now you are just this, like, you're basically like the earth to them, and they like feed off you and take from you, and you have to become all of a sudden just like fully selfless. And it's so difficult. I don't think like a lot of us, especially our generation, we're so used to like getting everything like as we want it, and like, oh, this is what I need right now, there it is, and like, you know what I mean, everything is like about us. It's like a very individual time as well, isn't it? We don't like live like how our grandmothers say used to live, where they were like, oh, but for the better good of the family and stuff. We don't really live like that anymore. And I think that's another thing that makes it so difficult when you first have your baby. It's like, now nothing is about you anymore. And then I just found, because I think, you know, I say it's a culture, but like, I was talking to another friend when we were back in England, and she said, oh, how is it breastfeeding in India? And I personally found it really difficult, because maybe it's where I come from, or maybe it's like, I don't know, what I expect from the world gives me in a way. So I expect it to be like creepy for me to like feed outside, and that's what I've been told my whole life, and that's what I've seen the women around me that have had babies do, like hide and feed, like it's a shameful thing, like as if we have a drug habit or something. It's like, you know, people smoke in public, people get drunk, fight and kill each other in public, but we can't like feed our babies in public. I just find it so stupid now that I'm 31. I think about it and I'm like, I'm a grown woman, I can do whatever the hell I want. But anyway, when you know, when you do something for the first time that you've never done before, you take advice from people that you think know better than you, and that's the general vibe that I was like, oh no. But then when we went to England, I was like, people are a bit more used to like seeing, not like in a perverse way, but people are a bit more used to seeing women look free or not wear as much clothes or not cover up or be ashamed of being female. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't mind, I'll see what it feels like. And then I was just like feeding in Starbucks and feeding in everybody's houses and just like feeding everywhere, and it was just so comfortable. And I know, because I could also see other women around me do that, and like I was like, oh, it's fine, you know, and it's not weird, and like it's great, because like otherwise you just end up missing out so much stuff that you resent your baby. Like I found that happening to me when I was in India the first 3 months, where I couldn't even like sit in the lounge in my own house, you know, because the maid would be there, and then the driver would be coming to the house for, oh, pick up this parcel, or my dad would be in the house, and everyone was like, oh no, you can't like feed in. And now when I think about it, I'm like, my dad's not going to be looking at my tits, is he? You know what I mean? It's like, he doesn't care. And it's just all this stigma about like, oh, you're a woman, you have to cover up, and like, why? I don't get it. So I let go of that, and then I became a lot more like free and happier to feed him. And I think that was something that made it really easier for me to like feed him. But because of my first few months, it was so difficult. I had a bit of a problem with like having as much milk as he would want, so then I bought those pump things, and then when I wasn't feeding him, I was pumping milk, and it's just it's a big, like, it's crazy. There's like everything you do in the first year of motherhood, maybe more, I don't know, I've only come to the first year, is like, how do I get something from me to give to somebody else? Because the first few months I had to hide and do it so much, was that it made my milk supply low, because I didn't want to do it that much, because I didn't want to like, oh, now he wants to feed, so I have to go in the room, or if I'm in the car, all the things have to be put up on the car, and I have to wear a dupatta, and I was like, this is so not me. So I was like sort of like caught between like my own personality and then also doing something that I knew was right for him, and it was just driving me crazy. So at the end of it, like, you kind of like resent your own child for wanting it so much. It's like, why do you need to feed constantly? Because it's driving me crazy. But actually what's driving you crazy is everybody else. And then I think that just as like any person might, you kind of get to a point where you start questioning yourself, I guess, in a way, where you're like, am I good enough? Or like, because in every possible way, like milk has been sold to us. Even when they sell you cow milk, it's like, oh, mother's milk, and there's like a picture of a cow and the baby cow just kind of cuddling, and it's just such a beautiful picture. And if I was going to talk about the vegan side of it, then that picture is a lie. But anyway, I'm talking about us. Yeah, it's like everything is like pushed as like, oh, are you a good mother? Are you a mother? Then you must be able to feed your child. And like, it kind of like plays on your mind and makes you feel like you're not good enough. And then, you know, I don't have to tell you how like feeling like you're not good enough bleeds into everything in your life. And then you just feel like, oh, I'm a bad mother. Then you start feeling like, oh, I'm a bad partner. I'm like, I can't do the one thing I'm supposed to do in this relationship, which is make our child healthy. And the kid is crying, and then you feel like, oh, what's going on? So the thing that Jack and I started doing, like in the beginning, a lot of people were like, I think the one thing I will say, and I know this is me giving advice as well, the one thing I will say is that when it comes to like what you think is right for your baby, and like in the beginning, even if you've never been a mother before, like this is the first time I've been a mother, but I feel like I do it quite well. And you know, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. River will be like me, and River will be like Jack, and we know that. So like, we know what we do for him is the best. But a lot of people in the beginning said, oh, he can't have, you know, something as strong as like oat milk or like cashew milk or almond milk, whatever I wanted to substitute then with. And that made it really hard for us, because we were obviously like, oh God, will we be doing him like a disservice, or like, is he going to like get ill? Or, you know, it's just so scary when you have your child. They are so small and so fragile that like, you know, it's just really scary, and your only job is to keep this tiny thing alive, and it can't talk to you, and it can't show you anything. It can't like do anything except cry. And so it's just like, you don't know what you're doing. But after a point, Jack and I were like, this is whatever, forget this, let's do things the way we think we want to do. And then we started supplementing oat milk when we were in England, and he loved it, and it's just so healthy. And so like, I would feed him, and then when I was feeling a bit dry, but he still wanted more, we would just like fill in a bottle like 5 ounces or so of like oat milk, and he would down that and have like great sleep, and he was just feeling so happy, so healthy. And like now he drinks like 10-11 ounces full of cashew milk, and it's like, it's so good for them. Like, what I noticed was after that, like now that I've become more confident as a mother, and I'm like, well, this is what I do with my child, and it's not an arrogance, but it's just a confidence that I know that what I'm doing for him is right. So what you feel is like, doesn't really matter to me unless you tell me, oh, this is unhealthy. Then I'll look it up and I'll be like, okay, you're right. But like, I know that like the way I've done things for him is, I mean, you just have to look at him, you know, and he's been to his doctors and he's always healthy, never gets ill, you know, knock on wood. He is just, you know, everything is working out. We're lucky, we're very lucky. I'm not taking the credit for, you know, everything. There's something that watches over us, we know that. But yeah, he drinks cashew milk now, he drinks almond milk, he has like smoothies with like lots of fruit. He even has like this green powder, which is disgusting, but he loves it. It's got like spinach and amla and all this like really tasting stuff in it, but he like downs that stuff and he loves it. So I'm just so grateful that like, I know it took a long time for me to get here, but I'm just so grateful that I went with my instincts. And I think that's what like, that would be, if I give any advice to anyone, I think that would be my main piece of advice, is that as a mother, I think, especially when it comes to breastfeeding, it is such a personal journey that you must do it the way you want to do it. And I know I'm doing it still now at 15 months, but a lot of mothers do it until like 6 months. I was talking to another girl the other day, and she was planning a baby, and she's like a working mom. I'm not a working mom, so I can't say, but she's a working mother, and she was saying that, oh, I'll only do it for 3 months, and then, you know, I'll pump and then give formula and stuff because I have to get back to work. And she can't afford to not go back to work, or she doesn't want to, and that's a personal choice as well. I think like the time has come to stop judging mothers. Everything a mother does, I truly believe, is what they think is good for their child. And you know, nobody's way in anything they do is going to match your way, or like it's going to be like 100% what you would do, and that doesn't make them right or wrong. It just makes it their way, and everybody does what they think is right for their child. And I think that's the most important thing that we should all remember, is to stop judging each other first of all, and trust your instincts. That would be my breastfeeding advice. Okay, so I thought that I would link a video to making the cashew milk that we give him. I just want to say as well that like he is 15 months old and he's been having it for a few months, but we are not experts, and I certainly don't want to give anybody any nutrition or food advice as if I'm some kind of nutritionist. So I will say that like it works for us, but I don't think you should give your child anything until you've tested that they're not allergic to anything. But yeah, so we'll link a video to how we make the cashew milk. It doesn't even take a whole 3 minutes. It doesn't, it's just water and cashew, and then we'd like do a little squirt of date syrup, so it's sweet and tasty, and he loves it.